Welcome to the Small Church Podcast, the podcast for church leaders who want to make a difference in their communities. We're your hosts, Tony Marr and Bruce Montgomery, and we're excited to be with you today. On this podcast, we'll be discussing the latest trends, strategies, and ideas for effective leadership in small-sized churches. So whether you're a pastor, a ministry leader, or a volunteer, this podcast is for you. Each week, we'll bring you interviews with experienced church leaders who have valuable insights to share. We'll also explore topics like team building, community outreach, spiritual growth, and much more. So if you're looking for practical advice and inspiration to help you lead your church with excellence, you've come to the right place. The Small Church Podcast is brought to you by Higher Ministries. Higher Ministries is an organization that exists to help Christian leaders in the churches they serve through coaching and consulting, all for little or no cost. For more information on Higher Ministries or to find out more about the Small Church Podcast, please visit higherministries.com. Thanks for tuning into this week's edition of the Small Church Podcast. Happy fall, y'all. Is that Dolly Parton or Martha Stewart or who's the other one?
I don't know, but Dolly gets credit. If there's a trio of ladies that we're putting in there, Dolly's getting the credit. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. What's the Paula Deen? That's the other one I was thinking of. It might be Paula Deen.
Dolly doesn't matter.
Dolly. Right. Anyways, happy fall. It is October, and you know what that means.
It means it's hoodies and jeans time all year long.
All year long. It is Clergy Appreciation Month, or as we like to say, Pastor Appreciation Month or Minister Appreciation Month, however you label yourself or your spiritual guide. It is the month to appreciate them. And so we want to welcome you into the Small Church Podcast. If you are listening and you are a pastor, a minister, a clergy member, we want to say, we appreciate you. We are so thankful for you. I am here with my good friends, Robert Kell and Bruce Montgomery, and we're excited to be with you this morning on this first Tuesday in October. We are very excited to be here and share with you some thoughts, some musings on Pastor Appreciation Month. That's what we're talking about today. Is October is officially Pastor Appreciation Month. And Bruce, you said, when did October start being Pastor Appreciation Month? I have an answer for you.
When?
Pastor Appreciation Month was started in October of 1994 by our good friends at Focus on the Family Ministries in Colorado. They thought that pastors did so much that they should not only have a day, which there is a Pastor Appreciation Day, which is also in October. It's not a set day, and I'm not sure how they decide or who decides. Probably Hallmark decides. Whenever they see that their shares are dipping a little bit, they say this would be a good Pastor Appreciation Day. But they decided that pastors didn't just need a day. They didn't just need a week. They needed an entire month to show their appreciation. And that's probably because the average American Christian only attends church about once every 3 weeks anymore. So if they figured if we're going to catch everyone to come and appreciate their pastor, we better give them an entire month.
Well, that makes sense. If I wouldn't want anybody to miss that day for me. So if we can get everybody to come in, even off the street for that, that would be a good thing. It just happened in my life. After all the years of ministry, I'm working on the side where we're having appreciation months and days and things for pastors, and I just kind of, before we started this, I really was curious what started it, and because I didn't feel overappreciated most of the time in the ministry. I was more underappreciated was probably how I felt about it. But I didn't take time to dwell on it.
Yeah, Dr. Dobson felt the need to appreciate his pastor.
Okay.
And so he created a month that now is celebrated around the world every October. We take time to reflect, to appreciate, and to thank our pastors. And I know that we've started off joking about it a little bit, being a little bit lighthearted about it, but I have two pastors that are sitting here with me this morning. And guys, honestly, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the ways that you sacrifice yourself and your families and your time and everything for the cause of Christ, for the kingdom, for his church, for his body. It's a great calling that very, very often goes unappreciated. And so I, for one, am thankful that there is a designated time that we set aside to remind people. Our Christian radio stations will talk about it a lot, saying this is Pastor Appreciation Month, and they will do giveaways for pastors. And, we've talked before that...
They give away pastors?
They give them away.
The church needs a new pastor, so we'll give you a new...
There are some people out there listening that say, how do we sign up our pastor for this, to give him away?
There might be a few pastors that want to get given away.
If we could get where do I get on that list?
I don't do that Bill Belichick Cleveland to New England thing.
That's right.
And then if I can get Tom Brady as my worship pastor, this thing's going to be set. I can do this and move. I'm willing to make that move.
Oh goodness, but in all honesty, it's a great thing. And in the years of us working through higher ministries and the opportunity that I've had to sit down with dozens, maybe hundreds of men and women that are in ministry, actively in ministry, October can be a difficult time because the whole world is talking about Pastor Appreciation Month, and yet they're going to their church every single day, every single week, and they're saying, when is someone going to appreciate me? And so it can be a lonely time. It can be a time to really sit and reflect on what kind of an impact am I truly having. I think that the intended goal of this month was simply just to set aside, to bring awareness to the fact of everything that our pastors do for us. And Bruce, I don't know how good you are to speaking to this because you've been actively in a pastoral role in a church for, 80 years?
Well, yeah, it seems like 80 years, more like 50 years. It was not all full-time, but full-time and part-time with our ministries and consulting. I've led a large number of churches over that time. I've never regretted it. I never have regretted it. There was one time in my life I wondered if my calling has come to an end, if I may not be as effective, and I tried to step out of ministry, and honestly, I was so uncomfortable and so unhappy that short time that I'd stepped out of ministry that I got into a situation with a church that was in real conflict, and I was happy about it because I was there and I could help them, and I was ministering again. So I find joy in it, and even in the difficult times, there are difficult times, but there's still I find joy of being there because I just love the family, which is the church, and I love the people, even the ones that don't love me. I still try to love them, and I guess just doing the job and doing it well, and knowing I'm doing well. That's the appreciation I need. I want to do what God wants me to do, and if it's in ministry, professionally, that's that. If it's not, then that's okay too. I've done several different things, but for the most part, most of my life and all of our marriage, Carol and I have been married over 50 years, and all that time we've been in ministry, and she's as much into ministry as I am. And she probably does a better job of it than I do, but she's there. She supports me. She tells me what she thinks, which I don't always like to hear, but she tells me what she thinks. But we both love the churches we serve, and we're in love with the church we're in right now, and love the people. We even moved from Johnson City to Kingsport just to be closer after I retired to the church we wanted to serve with, and that's. People might think we're crazy, but that's really what we did. Now I miss the convenience of all the stores that we were at, but I've got the people.
Yeah. Bruce, I just did some quick math in my head. My Bible college education paid off for me. And this is the 29th Pastor Appreciation Month, which means that you have been around for all of them. Is there one that stands out to you most?
No, most of the time I didn't know they were there. I was on the radio a couple times when they had it, and they had interviewed me for things. But no, half the time I didn't know it was that. And I've got some ladies and people in our church now who send me the most wonderful and delightful cards, not just then, but throughout the year, encouraging me. And I never liked cards. I always thought sending a card to somebody was a Hallmark, thing to make them more money.
Today's episode is sponsored by Hallmark. It's like the third reference we've had to Hallmark in this thing.
I think they thought they have a big boom if they had appreciated faster, so they came up with a card that way. But I've got some ladies who create their own cards and send them with their own thoughts and scripture, and I actually keep them. Used to be I'd look at a card and throw it away, but I keep them. I'm not one. You don't have to appreciate me a lot. Just appreciate me a little, and I'm okay with it. And but really, honestly, I could not have told you this month was Pastor Appreciation Month, except you told me it was.
Something you just said triggered something in the back recesses of my mind. One of my earliest lessons in ministry, and I don't remember where it came from. I don't remember if it's something that I learned in a ministry class in Bible college, or if it was something that was at a youth specialties seminar, or if it was something in an internship. But some place along the line, someone told me that in your office, have a file in your file drawer called your Keep Going file. And this is a place where every time you get one of those cards, anytime you get a little note, anytime you get an email, print it off and stick it in this Keep Going file. And when you're having one of those days, typically most Mondays, I think for most people in ministry, that when you're just feeling like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? That you can open up that drawer and pull that out and read through some of the things. And the original idea came along that it said, also have a file of all the negative notes and comments that you get. And over your years in ministry, you will see that your Keep Going file gets really, really big and the other one is small. And we tend to think that all of the comments that we get are negative and no one really likes us. I did that, and it was the other way around. My one file, I needed to get a second filing cabinet for all of the negative ones, and then my Keep Going file. That's not true, but
no, I couldn't.
But
I could not imagine that being true.
I did do the Keep Going file for many, many years, and there were many times where I would pull that file out and just sit and read back a note, a card, something, an email that someone had sent to me maybe years ago that just reminded me, this is why I do this. This is why we make the sacrifices that we make. And I honestly, I know that you both think that it's ridiculous, but I am actually very thankful for the fact that we have a month that the world sets aside to say, thank you, pastors. When I was first getting started in ministry, my first full-time ministry job was a church plant in Las Vegas. And being in a city like Las Vegas was very different than my ministry experience in the middle of the Bible Belt. At our church in Las Vegas, we had, now this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where we had the actual mail room in our church office where we each had a box with our name on it. And we would go in and any mail that had come in for us would be there. And it was a weekly thing that we would go into the mail room and check our mail, and would have a gift card from someone, would have tickets to a show, would have some show of appreciation, some show of thanks. And I just thought that was ministry. That was my first ministry job, my first experience, and I just thought, wow, this is the way that it is. Then I moved 2,000 miles to the Bible Belt and had a ministry position there, and that didn't happen anymore. In fact, it never happened. And it wasn't until years later that I realized in Las Vegas, the people there, what they were experiencing in life, what they were going through in life, the places that they were, that discovering Jesus was transformational for them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it completely changed the game for them. Complete 180 on their life. And so they were so appreciative for the men and women that helped guide them there, that helped introduce them to Jesus, and were continuing to grow them in that. And they couldn't thank you enough. They were so appreciative because now their life was completely different. Here, we live in cultural Christianity, and most people have either grown up in the church or grown up around the church, and so it's less life-changing for so many people. And so I think that they miss out on here's the 180 that has taken place in my life as a result of Christ coming into my life, and I really want to value and see the importance of the people that bring Christ to the masses. And so I think that October is just a time where our DJs on our local Christian radio stations, the magazines that we subscribe to, they're putting it right in our face. These men and women do a lot for you. You should appreciate them. You should thank them for all that they do.
And that's a hard thing. I mean, you're talking about the Bible Belt, the region we live in. Barna did some study recently, and we are considered the most biblically worldview area in the country. Like, we're one of the top, like, one or two in the entire United States. Like, and so now, on top of the fact that the Bible Belt mentality, we live in this area here in Northeast Tennessee that just is supposedly very world viewed and sees things through a biblical lens really, really well. And in that, when you've always grown up with it, I'm air quoting like they can see me through your iTunes. You've grown up with it, you've always had it, you've always been around it. There definitely is a difference in how that approach comes. And two, it's something where, okay, there's no doubt in my mind, of all the people listening to this, there is a person who is like, I want to be appreciated. And they would almost want to get up on a Sunday and go, just want to let everybody know it's Pastor Appreciation Month, and announce it to everything and kind of hint at my favorite place.
Are you doing that this Sunday, Robert?
No, I will not. I don't hate it. I don't mind it. I've always tried to kind of show appreciation and do some stuff for pastors in my life in those times. But no, I don't. I mean, it's not anything there, but I'm definitely not promoting myself. I would love to promote my staff. I'd love to let them get something and do things because I think they deserve it, because they're amazing and deserve everything they get. But 25 years ago when I first started, like, if you wanted to show me appreciation, give me a gift card to Sonic or Blockbuster. I mean, that would have been like my jam. Those were things that Melissa and I loved. I mean, we loved going to those places, and it
you
would
still
have
your Blockbuster membership card?
I do. And we actually met to go somewhere the other day and parked right in the parking lot where my Blockbuster was. Like, we still say, hey, we're going over next to our Blockbuster. Like, the building's been 7 different things since Blockbuster closed.
Is that the one that's now a mattress
store?
It's
a mattress. I think a lot of them are mattress stores. There's
so.
2 of them.
There's something going on there.
There is. And Blockbuster's website says, be patient, we're rewinding or something like that right now. And I'm going, please bring Blockbuster back. That would be so much fun. But anyway, I just think it's one of those deals, like, there's somebody who wants to be appreciated, and I get that. But then there's a lot of us that, like, sometimes it's going, like, and I can get this way. I can get in the feelings. I can get in my head. I can get in the emotion. And you get to going through this month, and maybe somebody sees you at a coffee shop and they were listening to Christian radio, and as they were pulling up and they heard it on the thing, and they walk in and they see you standing in line, and they'll run up in front and stick their card in the thing and pay and do that. And that's very, very kind and super appreciative. But I mean, for the most part, I don't know that Pastor Appreciation Month, as far as like getting things, which I guess is what a lot of people want to do, it's more than just let's stand up and acknowledge this on a Sunday morning. Like, they want to get something. I don't know that I've ever gotten a ton, and I don't know that I've ever looked for it. I just never felt like that. I guess I never felt like I was that important that I needed to get that. I mean, like, all these people have kids, they've got families, their kids are in travel ball, they've got things going on, and I figure they show up every week in tithe. If they stop doing that, I've got a bigger issue. And so, it is a weird time mentally for pastors, because of so much that I think that we can struggle with. It can feel really weird if you feel like people aren't caring and don't care, that they aren't appreciating, I guess, to use the word, aren't appreciating you during that window.
Yeah, I think it's difficult when you know that people in your church are listening to the Christian radio station that is talking about it every commercial break. You know that they're hearing it from other places, from other people. You you drive by, and I wonder, who's the person who does the church marquee? Are you the pastor who goes out to the church marquee and put October is Pastor Appreciation Month on your own marquee? It's a little self-serving.
I will say we've got one guy in our church, and he's not a paid staff member. He's a volunteer. That we're a 3-campus church, and he manages the budget for all the campuses. Wow. So he has a full-time job, and he is our head finance guy, and that's his role in the church, and he's amazing. There's days it's hard, and we've been friends for 25 years, and so I love this guy a ton. But it's like he's like, nope, we're not spending this or this. And we're going, come on, man, we just need batteries for the projector. I mean, it's and it's not that bad, but it's he manages the budget well, and he will go into our church database. And he'll personally send an email from himself to everyone in our database and just say, hey, this is who I am. Love you all. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for being generous. We're in a season right now that there is generosity, that we get a chance to show some love and appreciation to the men and women who lead our ministries and that serve in our churches. And so, and he will do that. And that is super kind. And then we've got one person in our church that every year we all end up getting like $50 gift cards to the same restaurant. It's like, y'all want to go to Outback? Like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And we've all got a gift card to some random restaurant or things like that. And that's not a light lift. 3 campuses, 13, 15 staff members. Yeah. That's a heavy lift by somebody to do that. And so there's a lot of kindness that gets shown. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. How do you do that? How do you just walk up and go? And you'll see this slide, and here's the announcements. Thanks for being generous. Here's the new event we have coming up for the Fall Festival, and you just hold your hand up and you don't speak, and you hope everybody reads Pastor Appreciation Month, and then you go to the next announcement and you just keep rolling. Yeah, it's hard to do. It really is when you're the person talking all the time. Yeah.
I had one time I walked into this was, again, back at the church out west, that walked into my mailbox and had a gift card for a restaurant that was a $150 gift card. And I thought, wow, this is going to get me 2-3 meals at this place. And it was a restaurant that was very fine dining. I had never been there before. Later that afternoon, our lead pastor calls me into his office, and he says, hey, did you get a gift card from so-and-so? And I said, yeah, I did. He said, have you ever been there? I said, no. He said, $150 isn't even getting you an appetizer. He said, why don't you sell me it for $100? And that way I'll have $300 to go and can maybe get a meal. I'm like, sure. So I sold it to him, but it was the thought that counts, right?
Wow.
So there you go, guys. Look at your staff, find out what they got, and barter with them to up.
That's right.
Up your appreciation.
Oh goodness. So we were talking before we hit record that.
That is
I don't know why that came into my mind.
That is one of the greatest stories I have ever heard.
And I'm thinking back on it now, that I wonder if that was really the case or if he just ripped me off.
Oh my God. I was thinking the same thing when I'm a horrible human, man. I'm just so conspiracy theory. I was thinking the same thing when you said that, and I'm just going, I wonder if he really just wanted to take his wife with him.
He owes me $50. And with inflation, I mean, this is like 2001.
You could probably help all 3 of us retire off of what he owes you.
We were talking before we hit record that, the way that we originally intended for this episode to be was we were going to give some great ideas on what you can do, what our listeners can do to support their pastor, to appreciate their pastor this month of October. But then as we were talking, we were wondering, of the 500 or so of you that listen to the show every week, how many of you are lay people in the church that are listening to this? And how many of you are pastors that don't want to hear how you can not be appreciated by people in your church, but rather need to hear that you are appreciated? And so I want to kind of spend some time with you guys and talk about both. Let's spend a few minutes really diving into, if you're a lay person who's listening to this right now, what are some practical things that you can do this month to show appreciation to your pastor? And then we'll kind of switch gears a little bit and talk directly to the pastors on how you can navigate through this month. If maybe you're in a church that doesn't do a good job of showing their appreciation, where does your true value and worth and appreciation come from in ministry? And I think we know that, but sometimes it's good just to hear it, to be affirmed of that. And then we'll close this out and let you get back to your pumpkin spice latte and your sweater that you're wearing, because it is, as we said, it is fall, and that is the pumpkin spice latte season.
I guess if I had to pick how to honor the pastor, and I was a pastor, it wouldn't be a gift card. It would be, let's take you as a family, and we'll go out together and have a meal or do something together, so that I don't feel so special at that point in time, but I do like, we can work on relationships.
I'm glaring at Bruce here going, now you're going to punish me and make me go sit and eat dinner with somebody.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm exactly the opposite. Give me that gift card.
And I will say, I'll write you a thank you note.
Exactly.
I'll post on social media and say some kind person. They don't even have to tell who. I won't even tell who it is, but you will know. And
I was thinking the exact same thing.
I'll get you both gift cards to McDonald's.
That's fine with me.
I was thinking the exact same thing. That's not appreciation. That's torture.
You just took 4 hours of my afternoon, and I got to listen to stories about Aunt Bertha or something that I don't try and eat while you're telling me that. So sorry, goodness. Bruce, keep going, man. You had some really good stuff. That is actually a really kind idea, and it might depend on your connectedness to the person on some level. I mean, the reality is this: even in small churches, I mean, it's just hard sometimes to get that much access to someone. It's hard for people. I mean, Melissa and I were taking a walk this morning with our dog, and we're just going through our week, and we've got 3 boys, and 2 of them are still in high school, and we were just going, okay, one kid is a minimum of 4 days a week, and most weeks it's 6 days a week playing baseball, and on the one day he has off, we have church. We have youth on Wednesday night, and then the other one's a minimum of 4 days a week, up to 5, and he's playing soccer, and so it's just like, thankfully he drives, but the other one doesn't yet, and so we're in the space of we're constantly going, and so it wouldn't be out of disrespect. It would just be more the fact of, I've got a 19-year-old that we're making a day trip to Ohio. I think it's like a 10-hour drive for us there and back, and just to go do something fun and kind of just spend some time together, but we're making this day trip and doing this thing, and I'm going, if I get a day, I get some time, I want to invest in my kid. I want to spend that time there. I have so little time. I don't know that I could get out and go and do that. So, but I do love that. There is a real genuineness to that thought of actually giving me your time more than just giving me your resources. So I do appreciate what you're saying there, even though we were being a little bit serious. From the heart, the mouth speaks. There's some definite truth in what Tony and I said, but also I understand what you're saying as well, and I appreciate that sentiment.
Well, we don't have kids playing ball right now, and our kids are all adults, and we have grandkids and things, and so we appreciate going out to dinner with somebody. I think that's we would look for somebody even in that case. So I just the card is easy to go. You spend it.
Yeah.
You eat and you go on and you forget about it and you're thankful for a little while. But I think I really don't. What I grew up with as an adult in sports was so foreign to what you guys are doing. You guys are every weekend. You're on a travel team. Every time you go, it's the kids have athletic events to go to. Every Sunday is almost wiped out because they're traveling that. When I was in the ministry at your age, Sunday was still set aside. Most of the time they honored Sunday, even in Little League, not to play on a Sunday, and so the families could have some time together. And for Carol and I, it's just the two of us. We kind of would enjoy going with somebody to do something like that. And
that would be a fun podcast episode down the road sometime to talk about living in a world of travel sports and how do you pastor, especially in a small church. Yeah. Because I'm bivocational, probably like a lot of the people listening if you're in a small church, and I could take more than this if I want. I just love church. I just love being at church. I love my friends. If I'm not on staff, I love just playing music or whatever that looks like. I love being in that space. But I don't know. I probably take 3 Sundays off a year that I'm not around. And recently, this past Sunday, we we went and we had a weekend off, and I went and watched soccer in Knoxville with my son. I mean, we got up, took another one of his friends. His dad's a pastor as well, and so his dad couldn't get away from church, and so I took his son, and we rode down. The three of us rode down, and we played soccer all day, and that was it. And so it's a different world. I'd love to get back into a podcast. Maybe that'd be a fun talk one day of just around that, and how do you lead in a small church when you might be missing 30 people a weekend. And it alternates and rotates because of the travel sports that are now 52 weeks a year, and you can't get through that. I think that in that, kind of echoing what Bruce is, we're talking to the people in the church, if you're listening and you're a lay leader, or and I might even take, and I'm not being disrespectful or anything at all, I might talk to, if you're a staff member that you're not the lead pastor, the campus pastor, senior pastor, whatever your role title is. Some of the more kind and genuine things. The lady that leads our children's ministry is bivocational as well. And last year, I am not a pumpkin guy. I like roasted pumpkin seeds. Those are awesome.
Those are very good.
Love that. And so, but I'm not a pumpkin fan. You talking about pumpkin spice lattes and stuff.
Keep quiet.
Absolutely.
You're offending Bruce right now.
It's like sweet tea, man. It's like garbage water. I mean, it is absolutely horrible. But he's pulling up his mug. He's probably got pumpkin in something in it. Oh, that's hilarious.
We just lost 40% of our subscribers.
I have been fired. But they made this unbelievable, and I ate some of it, and it was really, really good. They made us a pumpkin cheesecake. They personally took time, made it from scratch, and she and her husband, and we love them, and they are amazing, amazing people, and they're in our small group with us, and a lot of different things. But then she took, and I saw this the other day, it's still at the house. She had every kid in our children's ministry write something, just thank you. I mean, something small. And throughout a Sunday, the 30 or so kids that are in our children's ministry, they all wrote something, and she created something out of it and gave that to me. And Bruce, I think you all should hear the podcast before the podcast, because a lot of times we get in here and we get to talking, and then we go, that'd be really good. But you mentioned kind of that same thing. You've had some church members that it isn't just the card, it isn't just that they go and buy something, they actually create things, and they make those, and they give those to you, and do some stuff. And so, and honestly, we might have said that during the podcast. My brain gets a little, we talk so much, I kind of forget, but I just thought that was special, and it wasn't something that cost anything. It took some time, and I think time sometimes can mean a lot more than a $5 Chick-fil-A gift card.
And I've seen everything. From our one church that I was on staff with at our 10-year anniversary of the church. It was a church plant. At the 10-year anniversary, which happened to be also coincide with Pastor Appreciation Month, at the end of the sermon, they pushed out onto stage a brand new Toyota Tacoma for the pastor that the church had chipped in and bought the lead pastor a brand new truck. That was a pretty big appreciation. We also had another church that bought their pastor a new house. Honestly, bought him a new house without him knowing, and presented him and his family the keys one Sunday in October for Pastor Appreciation Month. A lot of churches can't do that. In fact, I would say most churches can't do that. And the churches that did do that, if you're listening right now, they are not hiring. I know that you're wondering, you're dusting off your resume right now, wondering if you can get a job at that church. But it's not the quantity of the gift that you give. I think that it's just simply the thought. And so it doesn't have to be, if you're struggling financially to pay your bills, it's not like you have to go out and spend a fortune on something. Just a handwritten note, just maybe even on Sunday going up in a handshake or a pat on the back and saying, hey, I want you to know, not just because it's Pastor Appreciation Month, but we really are thankful for you and what you do for our church, for our community, for us, what you do for me. It doesn't have to cost you anything. In fact, sometimes, as Robert and Bruce were just saying, the most meaningful show signs of appreciation are the things that don't cost anything. They just come straight from the heart. But I think if you do want to spend a lot of money, you can do that as well, and that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, yeah. If you wanted to buy me a Tacoma, I'm down. I mean, it's I don't share my address a lot, but I'd be willing to if you need to have it delivered.
Yeah, and I would hope any home that they would buy for me would be in the county or in the state instead of somewhere else like Alaska.
I want to touch on something that you just said, Robert, is that for a lot of churches that have multi-staff, and I know that a lot of our listeners are in smaller churches and maybe there's only one or two staff, but having spent 10 years in student ministry, I can remember times for pastor appreciation and other things where the staff that are not the lead pastors got a lesser gift than
If
the
they
lead
got
pastor,
anything.
if they got anything. That a big deal was made about the lead pastor and the other members of the pastoral staff or just the staff in general, maybe not even pastoral staff, support staff that work just as hard, sacrifice just as much, were not acknowledged or appreciated. And so if you're listening to this right now and you're a lay leader in the church and you're feeling motivated by what you've heard us say to do something this month, make it across the board. If you have multiple staff, make that across the board. And again, it doesn't have to be a lot. Rather than giving a large gift to your lead pastor and then nothing or a little to the rest of the staff and the leaders on your team, make that even across the board because they all do the same amount of work. They put the same effort in. Just maybe not as visual as some of the others. And again, you can do anything for them. If you're looking for ideas, we've tossed out gift cards, taking them to dinner, showing them, writing them a note. It could be as
Pay for their streaming service for 6 months. You can go. I mean, like seriously. I mean, there's things like that. I mean, my wife and I. That's kind of our. We don't believe media is mindless. We believe that it's created with a purpose. So we don't sit and brainlessly watch things. But it is our exit. I mean, it is how we kind of exit from things a little bit. We enjoy that. I mean, pay for Netflix or HBO Max or whatever streaming service you're not boycotting this month. I mean, it's just, I mean, whatever. I mean, that comes down to. I mean, it's just pay for that for 3 months or 6 months or something like that. There's a lot of things you can do to care for people that can, because I mean, it's just. My family, like when it comes to, I just don't need things. There's nothing I need. If I need a hoodie, because literally like starting about now, I won't wear anything. Like I will preach in jeans and a hoodie from now until like mid-March when it kind of starts to break into spring. And that's just me. I have the same 3 or 4 hoodies. I just rotate them. And so if I needed a new hoodie, if one got dirty, I would just go buy a hoodie. And so my family started to look at how do we show Robert we appreciate him at Father's Day or a birthday or something like that. And literally like several years ago, they bought me like a $9, I love photography, I love creative things. They bought me like a $9 Canon lens that is a coffee mug that looks like a Canon camera lens. And yes, there are no other camera brands. It's only Canon. And if you think opposite, you're wrong. But I mean, it's just this whole idea of like that lens, that camera, that means so. I love that thing, and I carry it and I use it, and it just means a ton. And so that's one of the things that like in that space, and I don't know, I will get to pastors in a minute, but like that idea of, man, caring for your people as a pastor, and if you're looking at your other staff, like spend time with them enough to know what matters. Like I know my worship guy, a $10 gift card to the coffee shop he and I meet at 3 days a week because that's where our office is, and we sit down there. We have like our own table, and we're there when they open. That would mean something to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that means a lot to him. Anything, a pair of Clemson earrings for my children's ministry leader. I mean, like she loves Clemson. And so anything Clemson that I would get her, she's got a child on the way, that means something to her, and she would love it. And that's something that we have to, it doesn't have to take a $50 gift card to a restaurant to show you care.
So if you go to Robert's church and are listening to the Small Church Podcast this week, you have just gotten your full shopping list for October.
Yes.
You are down. And we know that if you go to Bruce's church, that he just simply wants to be asked out to dinner.
Yes.
And I've got some Clemson hoodies you might be looking at.
All right, let's change pages a little bit. Let's shift gears and talk to the pastor who is listening to this that is sitting there wondering, it's the beginning of October. Is anything going to happen this month? Is my church going to even bring up the fact that it's Pastor Appreciation Month? I have sat across the table from many, many pastors at the end of October when they've said the month is almost over and no one has said a word to me at my church. And that can be a very disheartening place to be. I think that what I would just say to you is, who is your ultimate audience? Who are you ultimately working for? That the one that you are doing all of this for appreciates you more than you could know. And from the bottom of our hearts, not knowing you, your name, or your story, I can say thank you for the work that you do that oftentimes goes unnoticed or unappreciated. Someone is noticing, and someone is taking note of what you're doing, and great is your reward.
Yeah. It's a really hard space, and you can feel really, really lonely in those moments and those times. And it's you're I know it's early in the month now, and maybe you're listening to this and it's getting to the end of the month, or maybe it's early in November and you're just now getting to this episode and you're listening to it and they're like, nobody said a word to me. And there's that weird mentality sometimes. It's like the lame pastor joke where the husband was like, I told her I loved her when we got married. If it changes, I'll let her know. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
we hired you and we give you a check every 2 weeks. I mean, like we let you know. And I kind of joke around that, and I said that earlier a little bit, but I mean, that is a mentality a lot of times of people. And I know, and busyness is not an excuse. It really, like busyness, being so busy, which I actually consider a sin. Like being that busy is not an excuse to ignore people. And we have to show gratitude. There's this unbelievable series right now that Bob Goff has on Right Now Media, and we were having this conversation inside of our group just recently, and we were talking through the first episode of that, and we were going through that conversation. And the thing was, who's someone that just cares well for you, like that you just, and people started sharing, and it got to me, and and again, I'm almost 50, and so I'm asking, like if I had like 3 ladies that I was mentioning that weren't like my mom or my wife, it might be weird, but like I was sitting in this moment, and I shared. There's this one gentleman who's in his mid 70s. Tony, you were on my mind in that space. Like you text and you care really well in that. And Melissa, after I shared, and a lot of the people had shared, men and women, Melissa said, "Do you realize Robert's the only person who said a guy?" I was the only person in the room that said a man. And so a lot of times, like, and I'm sure that a lot of the pastors we have are men that are listening, that not all, but a lot. I mean, sometimes we got to realize, like, I mean, are we really, are we such a manly man that we aren't? I mean, like, are we loving people well? Are we really investing? Are we caring for them? And I know that can get hard when you're bivocational, but have we shown ourselves that, like, worthy of being appreciated? That may sound harsh. I didn't mean for it to be that way. You can delete that out if you need to. But like,
No, I think you're right on.
I don't want to be. I don't be rude. I don't want to be overly critical. But I have to have people in my life that check me on that, because grace and mercy are really low on my spiritual gifts. Hospitality is really low on my spiritual gifts. And I love the leadership and the teaching and the pastor shepherd. That's where I sit. But I have to remember the shepherd part of that pastor is leading and caring for the flock, and I have to be someone that's worth appreciating. And so it's taking time to sit down, and this may sound horrible. Sometimes you have to set reminders like, hey, text your deacons every 2 weeks. Text your deacons once a month and just let them know, not check on their kid, check on the job thing that they had going on. Maybe you have to make notes. Life's busy. Life is hard. Do some things though. But if you're in that space where you haven't felt appreciated, I'd say one, have you been that? Have you been in a space where you've appreciated others? But 2, I just wouldn't take it. I mean, maybe try somehow. It's easy for me to say. I'm not in their shoes. Just how do you not take that personally, and just go, man, Tony, you just said a minute ago, who are we really serving? Who are we really working for in that moment? And how do we lean in and know that he appreciates what we're doing? He sees the fruit, he sees the effort, and we're just going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you're listening to this and you're having those thoughts that it's October, I'm feeling really down about myself because no one has appreciated me. I think something really practical that you could do, and Robert just touched on this, is maybe reach out to another pastor at another church that you know of that could be feeling the exact same way and do something for them.
I wouldn't call the guy that just got a Tacoma. He probably feels very appreciated.
I think he's feeling appreciated.
He's not the person you probably want to sit with. You don't want to hear that story over lunch.
Probably not.
Maybe we'll have a pastor's wife appreciation day. You know, the amount of time and sacrifice that I think our wives make for us to do what we're called to do, they can find joy in it and be a part of it. But there's also, I'm giving my husband up a lot of time, and the kids are giving things up. What can we do for the family? So maybe the pastor's family would be a better thing than just the pastor.
You're not wrong there at all. Melissa is by far the better caregiver to our church than I am. I mean, she and I serve and do a lot of things together. We have since the day we met. I mean, we have served in ministry together, and she is by far the better host, caregiver, shepherd in that. And so, no, you're spot on. And so maybe that's something we say, like, hey, pastors, you maybe feel if you're, that you got neglected this month, but man, if your wife, if you're married, your spouse serves alongside you, like maybe just love them. Maybe be appreciative and kind of show that care back. That's a really good word, Bruce.
It really is. All right, well, that's all the time that we've got for today. This episode of the Small Church Podcast is or was brought to you by the Pumpkin Farmers of but I'm pretty sure that we lost that sponsorship.
What?
Yeah, if you would like more information on things that you can do for your pastor, there are a lot of resources available. We have some available on our website, higherministries.com. We will also be posting things on our Facebook page throughout the course of the month, so be sure to check that out and follow along. We want to thank you for listening in, and from the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you. Thank you to all of the pastors, the staff, the clergy, the ministers, and your spouses. We are so thankful for all that you do and hope that this October and every October and all of the other 11 months of the year that you feel valued, appreciated, loved, and cared for. And we want to thank you for listening. On behalf of Robert Kell and Bruce Montgomery, I'm Tony Marr. Have a great week.